Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for Monday, May 13th, 2024. Well, welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone had a great weekend, a nice restful weekend. We've got quite a week setting up, so how about we just jump right in? If we take a look at what happened overnight, we had Asian markets last night. They were struggling just a little bit. Asian markets were mostly lower, with Australian markets up and Hong Kong up. Everything else was down. Nikkei, South Korea, Shanghai, feeling a little bit of pressure. And, a lot of it is everyone's worried about what our inflation data is going to look like here this week. If we look at European markets are also mixed and mostly lower. The FTSE is up very slightly, and the FTSE MIB is up. Everything else is a little bit on the lower side here this morning, feeling a little bit of sell pressure. And again, U.S. inflation data is one of the worry points here in the world markets. But if you look at U.S. markets, no worries at all. We're actually pushing to the upside, trying to get a gap up going here this morning with green across the board. Now, I will say it's much more modest than it has been lately, but pushing to the upside here this morning. If we take a look at our oil is also moving up a little bit this morning. We've got oil up 40 cents a barrel at 78.66. Brent is up 35 cents a barrel at 83.14, and natural gas being up just a little bit over a penny here this morning. If we look at our precious metals this morning, we have gold going lower, pretty sharply lower, down $25.70 an ounce. Silver is also lower this morning, but we've got copper, platinum, and palladium are a little bit higher today. And then if we take a look at our cryptos, well, we're flip-flopping here again. Pretty rough day on Friday for Bitcoin, but right now we're up $1,200 a coin, almost $1,300 a coin, with green across the board on those cryptos. So if we take a look at our bond yields here this morning, well, interesting enough that the 2-year bond is holding stubbornly strong, up 4.84%, while the 10-year continues to slip back just a little bit. Right now, that's the only thing that seems to matter to the market. If the 10-year is weakening, boy, we're pretty happy about it. The 210 inversion, we don't seem to care much about here at the moment, but we'll want to keep an eye on that. The 10-year is at 4.48%, and the 30-year is at 4.63%. So what does all that mean for today? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up, and let's get ready for the Monday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. How about we take a look at these charts and see if we can gain a little bit of information about how we may want to approach the market for today. Remember, one of the most important things here is that we kind of set aside our bias and look at the charts for what they are, not for what we want them to be. Well, going into this week, we've got quite a week ahead of us. First off, we've got several forces working against each other. First, we have the worry this week of a PPI and a CPI number coming up on Tuesday and Wednesday. And at the same time, we have got corporate buybacks underway, and a huge number of corporate buybacks. I think the number this quarter is something over $550 billion in corporate buybacks coming back in. So we'll want to keep an eye on that. And that's certainly been one of the things that gave us these last few days of surge to the upside, although our volume tended to be quite low. So looking here at the diamonds, you can see if the bulls can continue to push, well, we've only got one extra jump to make, and we're up here testing these all-time highs in the diamonds. And at this point, every reason to believe, with the enthusiasm that the market has seen and, the corporate buybacks, that we're going to push on through to the upside. Maybe not here in the first part of the week. It kind of all depends on what that inflation data has to say, but we'll watch that carefully. And then if we can push on through, you can see, get past these wicks up here, and we're talking about blue sky highs in the diamonds. Now, if the bears were to have anything to say about it and start pushing back, well, we can see these price levels in here. And I would say that if the bears were to really get going here, I would put a target on that 50-day moving average here, just to pull back into that 50-day. And I could certainly see that as a possibility, just simply because 8 days straight up in the market, and that possibility or worry of the PPI and the CPI numbers. And if they happen to come in, bearish, well, then a pushback in here to that 50-day moving average wouldn't be out of the question. So keep an eye on that here in the charts. If the bears were to push today, you can see push back down into here wouldn't hurt anything. That's just a little bit of support. But if we drop further than that, that's where we may start looking for that 50-day moving average test. If we look at our SPY, SPY also extremely bullish here. You can see it's not going to take all that much here to push us up here and test these all-time highs in the chart. And every reason to believe that they're going to make that happen. They didn't get all dressed up for nothing, just to get up there close and not try to make it. So although we had a little bit of a pushback here in the SPY, no particular worries here at the moment. And they're trying to push here in the pre-market, trying to pump us up. The candles right there underneath that line. So every reason to believe they could push us on through up into here. And then, of course, once we're past that, we're blue sky highs above in the SPY. Now, if the bears were to find some inspiration here and push back, well, first off, I would look right through here. There's that little bit of price support right in there that could hold us, and then of course back down would be testing these support levels and trend here in the chart, and that would be a pushback here to the 50-day moving average. So I think if the bears were to really get going, I'd look for the 50-day moving average as a test. That's a fairly normal pullback to retest a major moving average like that. So if we happen to get some bearish data in the PPI or CPI, or we just have that uncertainty as we wait for that, we could certainly see a little bit of a move heading back down into that area. If we take a look at our QQQ, now our QQQ is still looking pretty good here, very, very strong, although we left a little bit of a concerning pattern there on Friday, kind of a shooting star pattern overall. QQQ struggling just a bit, and you can see we still got a little bit of work to do. We get back up here and retest that area, then we'll worry about pushing up here to test all-time highs in the chart, and whether or not we can push on through there, that's still going to be the question. But right now, I don't see any reason why they couldn't do that. I think we still need more of a rest. We have zoomed so much here in this market, but remember, corporate buybacks are very powerful, and they can continue to push us through to the upside. Now, for a pullback here to test this downtrend break, or maybe down into here, would not be out of the question. And you can see that would just be coming back here toward that 50-day moving average. And once again, that would be a support area that I would be watching if those bears had anything to say here. But you can see right here in the pre-market, we're already trying to gap and push to the upside here. It's pretty much every day. But you'll want to watch that carefully in that gap or push up. We've been continuing to whipsaw shortly after that morning open, and we catch that pullback. So give it a pause, take a breath, and then wait and look for entries. If you take a look at your IWM, Russell had a bit of a bad day on Friday, leaving behind a bearish engulfing candle, but you can see we're already trying to gap up through the center of that candle and say, yeah, we're not worried about it. And continuing to push up here in this chart, you can see as we start breaking through the top of that candle up into here, then we're going to start looking at these little levels right through here, and then of course this major level here in the chart that is a multi-year resistance here in IWM. So we'll have to keep a pretty close eye on that. Watch that closely. Could be a barrier up here that could be tough to get through. And if the bears were to engage, then once again you can see we've got little bits of price support down in here and coming back down into here to test this trend might be the possibility. And of course that would be a pushback here to the 50-day moving average, and once again, not that odd of a situation for us to test that if we find reason to do so. If we take a look at our VIX, this is something that actually kind of bothers me here just a little bit. There is literally no worry in the market here. Our VIX continues to decline very, very sharply, despite the fact that we continue to have these bond inversions and we continue to see this problem with inflation. And certainly Fed speakers are not being as confident as the market is that, hey, they're going to roll over and cut rates. I'm not seeing any of them say that. And we're acting as if there is nothing ahead of this market. Now, when things like that occur and we get this uber situation here where there's no fear in the market, I look for that, next shoe to drop. I can't say that that's going to happen, and maybe it is this bullish, but watching this carefully, we are overly confident, I think, in the market, and the risk here could be substantial if we happen to stumble. And certainly we have some data points here today that could create, not today, but Tuesday and Wednesday, that could create that stumble. So keep a close eye on that and be really careful with overbuying in this situation, because when we get this super confident in the market, a stumble could really hurt a lot of folks. So watch that carefully. And then our T21 22, there we go. Let's take a look at these T20s. Well, we're in good shape here on this. You can see trying to push back up here on, well, not tried, we did. We pushed back up here on Friday after a little bit of a pullback. So we're looking good here. If those bulls can continue to find that inspiration, we've got upside opportunity. And of course, with the corporate buybacks, that is certainly possible, actually pretty easily possible, push to the upside. And if the bears were to find inspiration here today, then a push down into here is certainly doable as well. We've opened a big downside opportunity if for some reason we stumble on some of these inflation numbers this week. Whether it can overcome corporate buybacks is a big question, and I just don't know. I think anything is possible, and that's the thing I would say about the data this week. It's anybody's guess. We could easily zoom to the upside on the data. We could easily zoom to the downside on the data. So make sure you plan your risk carefully. And then if we take a look at T2108, our T2108 continuing to stretch to the upside. We got back above that 50% area here on Friday, pushing back up. Notice we're going to be coming into some resistance here in the chart as we push back up, but at least right now we have every reason to believe that we can continue to make that push to the upside, assuming we don't stumble on those inflationary numbers. So watch that carefully here. Bulls are definitely in control on T2108, and T2107, they're even stronger in control here on T2107. Push back up here on Friday, holding up here nicely. We will want to watch this upward. We're reaching up here into this kind of a frothy area in T2107. So keep an eye on that. Some resistance up in here that we'll be watching. And if the bears were to come back in, we've got some good support here, but bulls are definitely in control. T2101. This is one of the areas that we have been kind of struggling with here just a little bit, that market breadth. Now, breadth could be picking up here with corporate buybacks, as I've been saying. So watch that carefully. Although we hooked over here, we're showing that bullish push this morning. If the corporate buybacks really gear up and start pushing every reason to believe, we can continue to increase on that breadth. But if we have a little hesitation or pause with these inflationary numbers, watch for that breadth to maybe pull back here today. Wouldn't be a major surprise if that were the case. Everybody waiting on inflation data, kind of like markets around the world. If we take a look at our economic calendar here for today. Well, our economic calendar, here's what I've been talking about. Today we're going to start with a really light day. We've got Mester that's going to be in here speaking. 3-month and an 8th-month bill auction will be going off, but nothing much to really inspire the market. And if we look on through the rest of the week, we've got the NFIB Small Business Optimism Report. We've got a PPI final demand here. That'll be interesting on Tuesday to be paying attention to. Obviously, this is the one that could certainly move the market substantially, bullishly or bearishly. So watch that closely. That'll be out before the bell tomorrow. So plan your risk accordingly. And then the next day before the bell, we're going to get our consumer prices. We're going to get retail sales, Empire State Manufacturing, business inventories, housing market index, petroleum status. We're going to get Kashkari speaking again, and then the Treasury International Capital. There'll be a 4-month bill auction in there as well. As by the way, don't forget mortgage applications. Busy day on Wednesday. Thursday, we're going to jump right into the housing starts and permits, jobless claims, Philly Fed, import-export prices, industrial production, the natural gas report. We've got Hawker speaking, some bond announcements, a couple of bond auctions in here, and then we're going to have Mester and Bostic speaking again, along with the Fed balance sheet. And then rolling into Friday, you can see not much going on in here, leading indicators and things like that. Baker Hughes going to be lightening up again on Friday on that economic data. Let's take a look at our earnings calendar. Our earnings calendar today, a lot lighter than what we've seen. In fact, once we get through about Wednesday, the number of economic or earnings reports really begin to diminish. So we still have a couple of busy days in earnings in the middle of the week, but then it kind of eases off just a bit. So I'm going to run through these reports this morning really quickly. For the notables here today, we've got AS, HUYA, PSFE, TME, and MDRX is what I have for notables here this morning to be paying attention to. And then after the bell today, AGYS, ALLO, AHR. We've got KYTX in there and STNE. There we go. Stone will be in there. So keep an eye on those for this afternoon. And now, of course, there are more reports out there in the market, but not really particularly notable today. A lot of small caps are starting to come in, so things that are not likely to move the market much at all. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube, and then also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, please do me that favor. Click those thumbs up buttons, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to continue to grow. And just thank you so much to everyone who does take the time to do that. I appreciate it. A big shout out to everyone who supports the channel through the Buy Me a Coffee link just below the title of the video as well. Thank you, everyone. I really, truly appreciate it. Remember, feel free to share these videos out on your social media feed. That helps a lot. So thank you so much, everyone. Always a pleasure to serve the good folks out there that are following this channel. Got to tell you, never in my wildest dreams would I have thought this many folks would appreciate this kind of information. So thank you so much. Let's take a look at some of these stocks setting up. Remember, guys, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence. Be very, very careful in the market. Make sure that you're paying really close attention to your rules and your guidelines and your risk tolerances. Never ever blindly follow anyone else's trade ideas. Well, first off, let's take a look at a few things looking really, really good. I'm going to take a quick peek here at the dollar. This is something we'll have to be keeping an eye on. We see the dollar kind of flat here this morning. We've got 10-year bonds going down with a 2-year bonds going up. So it'll be interesting to see how this responds as we wait for those inflation numbers coming in. So keep a close eye on that. And of course, that's going to continue to affect how we move around in a lot of our commodity prices. And we can see gold pulling back today, and we can see silver pulling back today. But at the same time, we've got energy maybe going higher. So kind of an interesting mix. Keep an eye on those things. I would also keep an eye on some of these commodity prices. Corn, you guys know I mentioned this the other day and just popped nice little morning star pattern here on the corn ETF. Keep an eye on that. Nice push on through. Every reason to believe that as we come up in here that could continue to rally. And this is in what we call a round and bottom breakout pattern. And I would say pretty simple to see a target up there around that 200-day in corn. So keep an eye on that. Take a look at wheat. Wheat has been on quite a run here recently. Those food prices starting to become maybe a little bit worrisome here. Pressing through major resistance in the chart. Wheat's looking good. Keep an eye on that. Any rest, consolidation, or pullback in there would set up another opportunity in wheat. So watch those things pretty closely. Let's take a closer look at that oil and energy. Energy has been struggling. Obviously, we've had a lot of shorting patterns showing up in some of these oil stocks. But we had a little bit of a resurgence here pushing back up, and you can see on XLE we're testing this downtrend line here to see if we can punch on through to the upside. So there are bullish stocks out there in that energy sector trying to hold up and look pretty good, but we do have that mix where we've got some short, some moving to the upside. So watch that carefully here on energy. This is going to be really sensitive, I think, to those dollar moves in the market. So watch pretty closely how the US dollar is responding here overall. Let's take a look at a few other places here in the market. If we take a look at old J&J, J&J setting up a nice little bullish pattern here, breaking this downtrend, trying to push on through. See, we got these little higher lows starting to show up in here. I would keep an eye on that. Now, there is a little bit of concern. We're still underneath that 50-day moving average. We can make that push up toward the 50 and still struggle there. But J&J is coming around. Take a look at Moderna. Moderna's setting up a very bullish pattern. Got a little bit of bearishness in there coming in on Friday. May have to come back and retest this support and this longer term trend. But I got to tell you, Moderna's showing some bullishness here, breaking through that resistance here in the chart and that opportunity that could push on higher. Watch that one closely. If we take a look at PayPal, PayPal has been pulling back strongly here the last few days, and that's exactly what I want to see, because I'm looking at this as a longer term potential trade. Just taking a look here at PayPal on a pay system like this, I don't think it's going to go away. Certainly had a lot of trouble here recently, but if it can hold this higher low in here, we have that opportunity on this support and trend that we could push through. Now, I've been disappointed here before on some of these that started to set up and then just never finish up that setup. But I would watch that carefully in here. If this does find some support, start buying. I would be interested in this on the longer term. And once again, if I look at this on a moving average chart, this is what we call a round of bottom breakout, holding that 50-day, and the ultimate upside targets up there around the 200. Now that could take months for us to get back up there. So if you're a really quick in and out trader, this wouldn't be for you. But I can tell you that I have made so much money over the years on very simple long-term charts to the upside. Can't say this is going to be that one, but it is worth paying attention to and watching carefully on that position. Let's take a look at a couple other places here in the market. Let's take a look at our financials. My goodness. Whoops. Our financials have been making a run here to the upside, particularly the big banks showing lots and lots of strength here, just ripping to the upside. Again, we've got that situation where we have Janet Yellen, the Treasury Department, exchanging bonds with them, taking low rate bonds and exchanging them for higher rate bonds. And that seems to be helping out quite a bit here in the financials. They were struggling quite a bit. Now we run that risk here in the chart that we could just break on through to new upside highs in the market here with a little bit of that QE starting to come here into the bank, so watch that carefully. Now don't be too surprised at this resistance also, since we're away from the trend, that we might rest a little bit in here, but keep an eye on some of those financials. And boy, when you look at some of the individuals here in the market, take a look at BAC breaking through this resistance already, resting, consolidating in here. I would look for that next opportunity to the upside. This is also, as you can notice, an inverted head and shoulders pattern, and we're trying to break that neckline up here through the upside, so I would watch that pretty carefully. Looking pretty good. If we look at Citibank also trying to make that move and break through here to the upside. WFC has been a monster here lately, just running to the upside, breaking through resistance. Any rest or pullback in here would set an upside opportunity as well in WFC. So those big banks are looking pretty good overall. Let's take a look at some old boring stocks like 3M. You guys know I've been mentioning 3M here for a while. Nice little hold here on trend and support, pushing on up at the end of the week last week, looking good. I keep a close eye on that. 3M breaking this major downtrend here in the chart. Once again, this is one of these patterns where we push up off of these moving averages and really continue to find those buyers in there. Good dividend payer. If we look at this on a longer term, there's that round and bottom breakout there, guys. That big 50-day moving average reversal back to the upside, heading up toward that 200. So keep an eye on 3M. I'd also keep a close eye on things like Altria. Altria, this is quite a pattern in here. Look at this massive head and shoulders pattern that showed up here. Shoulder, big old head, another shoulder showing up in there, really pushing to the upside here on Altria. Any rest or pullback would set up an opportunity. Of course, we've got to deal with this resistance, but every reason to believe, the way the market's acting right now, that we can find our way to push on through some of those areas like that. So keep an eye on Altria. And it might be a good idea to keep an eye on Philip Morris as well. There's that big downtrend break trying to push through here to the upside. I would watch that closely. I kept thinking that Chewy was going to come back around here. Not so much. Chewy's looking pretty ugly here overall. This is another one of those patterns that I was watching right over here when we got above our 50. It just couldn't get going. Like I said, I've had my disappointments in here that just couldn't follow through. But as you can see, this is one of those examples. But when we look back here at Philip Morris, when we look back here at Altria, and start looking at some of these stocks coming up out of these bottoms, you can see that by and large, the momentum of those moves coming up out of those bottoms are really strong. So watch those carefully here overall. I still have to continue to mention, although we've got this fluctuation here in the dollar, still think we need to be keeping an eye here on Alcoa, that opportunity to move up, and things in copper. This is quite a nice setup here on FCX. Watch those. When we look at some of the mining stocks out there, GDX still looking really, really good. You could look at some of the individuals like Newmont Mining holding up here above support areas, worth keeping an eye on, although we are pulling back today. There's quite a few things in GDXJ, the Junior Miners ETF here, worth keeping an eye on. So watch those closely. So with that, everyone, hey, I want to wish you all a fantastic day and wish you all of the best as we push through and kind of wait on this PPI number coming up on Tuesday. Plan your trading carefully. Kind of expect about anything to occur. And I will see you right back here bright and early Tuesday morning. I want to wish you all the very, very best.